I work at a hotel at the end of the world. My job sucks ever since my dead aunt became my new boss. As the title says, my long-dead aunt has recently reappeared to attempt to seize ownership of my uncle's, her husband's, four-star hotel for unknown but very likely nefarious reasons. But before all that, I got a promotion. My uncle's been having me sub in for the old night clerk for reasons like to recover from mono, and doesn't want another nervous breakdown from listening to the voices in the eternal black void. Of which are valid, but some of which are just plain silly. Most employees here are some variation of cousin, second cousin, or out-of-town hire. The last night clerk was one of the few local employees from the town at the edge of the world. No, I can't tell you where we are. Sorry. Policy. Meaning she's literally grown up with the open black abyss that lies beyond the world in her backyard. You'd think she'd be used to it. I suppose it's a bit different actually working at a hotel at the very edge, with balconies hanging over impenetrable darkness and guests that frequently have dripping fangs or no mouths at all, but still. Anyway, she quit officially a few days ago, and guess who my uncle turned to fill the position? Two of my older cousins, actually. They didn't want the graveyard shift, though, so then guess who he turned to? Me. I got the job. I'm a good choice, too. Growing up, instead of going to scout camp or joining summer soccer leagues, Mom would always send me here to work at my uncle's hotel, the Grand Deliquesne. The first years I was in safe positions like kitchens or janitorial, but once I hit high school he started letting me work as a bellhop. I was mainly responsible for things like carrying luggage and helping guests settle in. There were other responsibilities, though. I was in charge of prodding under beds after any rat people would check out to make sure they weren't still hiding there. And whenever ice machines started leaking green mist, I was in charge of directing traffic to other hallways. And if there were ever dead bodies, pretty common. Lots of things like to come stay here before they die. I would be the first to see them and alert the cleanup crew to throw them into the void beyond the edge of the world. Don't get me wrong. Overall, being a bellhop was fairly safe. Most guests are none the wiser humans whose biggest concern is whether there's tofu bacon at our continental breakfast. There isn't. But I have a good amount of experience at the Grand Deliquesne. I'll be a good night clerk. I'm more than prepared to check in our late-night blood-eater visitors or inform the man with no mouth that, no money, no room, pal, for the umpteenth time. I've read the employee handbook back to front. Okay, skimmed. And I even know how to make sure a check is real. I'm used to the hotel's oddities. That's why it took me so entirely by surprise when my Aunt Cynthia, Uncle Roy's dead wife, walked through the automatic sliding glass doors at 3 in the morning little over a week ago. A little context. My aunt's been dead for, what is it now, 10, 11 years? Her painting hangs next to my uncle's in the break room. Not really sure of the entire story, but I distinctly remember seeing her face in the casket at the funeral, and then seeing that casket be covered by a literal ton of dirt. My uncle doesn't like talking about the specifics much. I know he really loved her, but she wasn't definitely dead. That's why you might forgive me when I regretfully inform you the first thing I said to her was asterisk, comma, asterisk. Goodness, I need to talk with janitorial, she said, barely looking at me. You can practically taste the dust. What are you staring at? She snapped at me. What happened to that other girl that used to sit there? She, got mono and quit. I replaced her. My Aunt Cynthia snorted. Well, I'll be talking with Roy about that now, won't I? I think it was that comment, more than anything, that really made me snap to attention. My job? She was threatening my job? No room for me to just sit passively anymore. Do you have a room reservation? I said. We're already booked for the night. Room reservation. She shrieked and jabbed her finger at my chest, and electricity, real actual electricity, surged from the spot she touched. This is my hotel. How dare you? Then she strode past me, past the front desk, down the nearest hallway. When I tried to go after her, she was gone. Aunt Cynthia never screamed at me. Even when I broke her screen door as a kid, she was always calm. So who was that? One of the delightful benefits of night shift is if there's any major figurative fires, everybody's asleep. I'm, for the most part, in charge of putting them out myself. Or just not. That too. And as I wasn't about to wake up my uncle to tell him my first major contribution as the new night clerk was letting his demonic, dead wife escape into the hotel, I had to wait until morning to talk to somebody. Before I went off to sleep after the night shift, I found my cousin Francis. "Hey, so you remember Aunt Cynthia?" "Yeah," he said. "Kay. So I think she might have walked in last night during my shift. Like alive." Francis was quiet. Then he shrugged. "Hey, once I thought I saw Gandhi check in with a demon nun lady. Was it?" "Nah. He turned out to just be her familiar." So that conversation was super helpful. I decided to go directly to the source and sort of ask my uncle. Because as I said, he's really sensitive about the subject of his wife. He really loved her. "Hey," I said to him later, with an air of subtlety to rival that of any spy. "So, anything weird happened to you recently? Huh. Like, I don't know. Anybody come to talk to you today or last night?" He sighed, stacked his papers, and pushed up his glasses. "What happened?" "Nothing. Everything's good. Just curious." After which point, I bolted from the office in a flurry of subterfuge and discreetness. Whatever, I told myself, I'd just forget it. Weird stuff happened here all the time. Maybe I'd just fallen asleep and dreamed it. The next night she came back. It was much the same. She strolled in, this time in a uniform I sometimes saw Uncle Roy wear on special event days, with a little name tag that read Aunt Cynthia, which we can all agree is an odd title to give herself, seeing how she's only an aunt to limited people. But okay then. Fine. Similar to the day before, she insulted the cleanliness of the lobby, but this time she rounded the counter, attempted to sign into the computer, then snarled in frustration when none of her passwords worked. After a minute of this, she strolled away again. Some nights she would come. Some nights she wouldn't. I stopped mentioning it to my cousins and never brought it up again to my uncle. Each time she came, she declared she was going to speak with him, but as far as I could tell, she never did. Uncle Roy doesn't sleep here like a lot of the rest of us. He's grown up here at the edge of the world, knowing he'd take over the hotel one day, and he has a house in town. Could Aunt Cynthia leave? Was she somehow stuck in the Grand Delaquesse? I would see her walk through the front doors but never saw her outside. Never during the day. Carried on like that for about a week. Odd, but nothing too terrible. Then 2 days ago, when she was ranting at me in a very un-Cynthia-like manner, another family walked in. An older-looking mother and her grown-up daughter. Humans. "So sorry about the time," the older lady apologized. She was dripping with water. Outside was pouring. "No worries. You two must be the Pantelis?" I asked. "Yes. Again so sorry. Our car." "How dare you?" Cynthia shrieked. Both the Pantelis and I gaped. I'd never actually seen my aunt interact with any other guests. She'd always come in and left so quickly there'd never been a collision. "Look at all that water you're dripping," my aunt ranted. "You're making a mess of my establishment. Filthy. Dirty." "I'm sorry," the older woman said. "I wasn't thinking." "No," I said. "Not your fault. The weather's terrible. Just go check into your room and we'll take care of the mess." Cynthia snarled. "We will absolutely not." "Shut up," I said. "Look, whatever you're here to do, leave my job and this hotel out of it. This is my hotel." "No, it's not." She glared at me. I glared back. The Pantelis had the good sense to snatch their room key and scuttle away. For an entire minute, My aunt and I stayed like that, both of us staring each other down. Finally, she harumphed, adjusted her Aunt Cynthia name tag, and strolled away. "I'm going," she said. Finally. It wasn't until a bit later that I realized what she'd said. Not, "I'm going to talk to Roy about this," or "Where's my husband?" Simply said she was going. I did indeed clean up. We always keep spare towels at the front desk, so I used those to wipe the floor. Only once I'd finished did I see the suitcase at the foot of the receptionist's desk. They'd forgotten it, understandably so, during the kerfuffle. Once a bellhop, always a bellhop. I wheeled the suitcase to the elevator, took it up, then rolled it to the pantelease room. I knocked. No answer. "You forgot your bag," I called. "Nothing. I'll just leave it at the door." I started down the hallway, then paused. Something felt wrong. They'd only been in their room a few minutes. Surely they couldn't be asleep by now, and why hadn't they realized their bag was missing? I retreated to the door, knocked once more, then when nobody answered, inserted my master key. "Coming in," I said. No answer. I creaked the door open, giving them a chance to scream at me in case they were changing, then pushed it wide. The room was empty. Where did they go? I checked the bathroom first. Clearly, they'd come in. Their bags were on the beds and the lights were on. But where had they gone? To get ice, maybe? Except their keycards were on the dresser. They hadn't left. I checked under the beds and in the closet. Nowhere. Finally, I crept to the balcony, fingers trembling, and pulled back the curtain. Aunt Cynthia held the younger, pantily woman by her neck, turned backwards. The woman struggled, hands waving in the air and feet kicking for purchase at the balcony ledge. My aunt didn't seem fazed. She was busy with something else. Her face was upturned. With her free hand, she shoved handfuls of the human woman's hair into her mouth, swallowing and choking it down, tearing it off, biting bloody clumps from the woman's scalp and gulping them down like a fleshy newborn bird. In between bites, she was muttering, "Ruining my hotel," and "disgusting, ill-mannered guests." The older pantily woman was gone entirely, but I could see shreds of her clothing littered around the balcony. It took me a second to collect myself. "Stop!" I finally tried. My aunt's eyes shot to me. She ripped one more vicious clump from the woman's scalp. Then, before I could react, before I could move, she thrust the woman off the balcony and into the eternal void. Hands reached from the darkness. The woman shrieked, sobbing, but the hands jerked her back, and she disappeared, her scream cut off mid-shriek. "I told you," my aunt said. "This is my hotel." I wasn't listening. I leapt for the sliding door, threw it closed, then slammed down the bolt. It would crack. I was sure of it. All that stood between us was a thin sheet of glass. But my aunt didn't rage. She didn't bang or throw a tantrum. She merely stood there, watching me, trapped on the balcony. My uncle picked up on the first ring. "Yeah," he said groggily. "She's here," I said. "Your wife." He didn't ask anything else. The phone merely clicked. Minutes later, he was at the hotel. "Where?" he said, and I led him upstairs to the balcony. For nearly 2 hours they talked. I sat outside the room the entire time. For his protection, I told myself, but what could I have done if she decided to hurt him? The woman was inhumanly strong. What was she? "Meeting," he told me when he emerged, and I helped gather the rest of my cousins and the few local employees. When all of us, those who weren't currently on active shift, gathered in the break room, my uncle gestured to Cynthia. They'd come to an understanding, he explained. They would be our joint managers for now. Whatever Cynthia said went. If she instructed us to do something, we should treat it as if it had been an instruction from him. My aunt smiled at all of us, But at the very end of the speech, she looked at me specifically, adjusted her badge and winked. I work at a hotel at the end of the world. For my entire life my uncle has known what to do in every situation. He's fixed every problem that's arisen, but I think now there may be a problem even too big for him. I don't know what to do. I don't know what they talked about, or why he's letting her stay after what she did to two of our guests. For now, all I know is that when it rains, I plan to lay out towels at the doors. For those of you who are considering coming for a stay, please do. There's something comforting about laying in your bed and staring at the unending blackness. But please, if you do come, just use an umbrella when it rains.